The most extraordinary military operation in Latin American history unfolded in the early hours of Saturday morning as United States forces launched what President Donald Trump described as a large-scale strike against Venezuela, resulting in the capture of President Nicolás Maduro and his wife. This unprecedented action marks a dramatic escalation that has sent shockwaves throughout the region and raised fundamental questions about international law, sovereignty, and the future of Venezuela. At approximately 2 a.m. local time, explosions rocked the Venezuelan capital of Caracas as U.S. military forces conducted coordinated strikes against multiple targets, including Fuerte Tiuna, Venezuela's largest military complex. CNN teams on the ground witnessed several explosions and heard aircraft flying low over the capital for at least an hour. President Trump announced on Truth Social that Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores had been captured and flown out of the country. Trump confirmed to Fox News that Maduro and his wife were taken by helicopter to the USS Iwo Jima and are now heading to New York, where they will face federal charges. Attorney General Pam Bondi stated that Maduro has been charged in a new indictment with narco-terrorism and other crimes and will face the full wrath of American justice on American soil. The operation represents the culmination of a months-long pressure campaign that has escalated dramatically since Trump's return to office. The legal foundation for this action stems from long-standing U.S. charges against Maduro. Since 2020, federal prosecutors in New York have accused Maduro of narcotics terrorism, alleging that he partnered with Colombian rebel groups to flood the United States with drugs. The Trump administration had offered a $50 million bounty for information leading to Maduro's arrest, designating him as the head of the Cartel de los Soles, which the U.S. describes as a foreign terrorist organization. The military operation itself appears to have been meticulously planned. According to CBS News sources, President Trump gave the military the green light for land strikes days before the actual operation occurred, with military officials initially considering conducting the mission on Christmas Day. The operation was reportedly delayed due to other military priorities and weather conditions before proceeding on Saturday morning. The strikes targeted multiple locations beyond Caracas, including La Carlota Military Airport, where witnesses reported seeing fires on the runway. The Venezuelan government condemned what it called grave military aggression and reported attacks in Caracas, as well as the states of Miranda, Aragua, and La Guaira. Venezuela's attorney general reported that innocent civilians were killed in the military strikes on several facilities. The international reaction has been swift and divided. Russia and Iran immediately condemned the U.S. attack, with the Russian Foreign Ministry denouncing it as an act of armed aggression against Venezuela and calling any justifications untenable. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the action as a violation of the UN Charter, posting verbatim Article 2, Section 4, which prohibits the use of force against territorial integrity of any state. Venezuela has requested an urgent meeting of the UN Security Council in response to the attack. Legal experts are calling the operation effectively a kidnapping that violates core principles of international law. Mary Ellen O'Connell, a professor at Notre Dame Law School, told NBC News that countries can only use military force if invaded or attacked, and there was no UN Security Council authorization for bringing Maduro out of Venezuela using military force. The Venezuelan government's response has been one of defiance mixed with uncertainty. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez said the government doesn't know the whereabouts of Maduro and demanded immediate proof of life from the Trump administration. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez declared that Venezuela will prevail, not negotiate, not give up. However, the capture of the country's top leadership has left the government in disarray. The implications for Venezuela's future governance remain unclear. When asked who will lead Venezuela, Trump told Fox News, "Well, we're going to have to look at it right now." Trump also indicated that the U.S. expects to become very strongly involved in Venezuela's oil industry, suggesting that American economic interests may play a significant role in the country's future administration. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2025, has positioned herself as a potential democratic alternative. In November, she issued a Freedom Manifesto for a post-Maduro future calling for the restoration of human rights, free markets, free speech, clean elections, and the return of Venezuelan exiles. When previously asked about welcoming U.S. military action in Venezuela, Machado said she would welcome more and more pressure so that Maduro understands that he has to go. The reaction among Venezuelan people has been mixed. Some Venezuelans expressed hope for positive change, with motorcycle rider Ronald Galoué telling Reuters that there should be a positive change for all Venezuelans, and that now is the time for transition in this country. However, others expressed concern, with Baker Franklin Jimenez saying the U.S. shouldn't have captured Maduro because this will create an even worse conflict than the one we have now. Venezuelans abroad have been celebrating the news, with Venezuelan-Brazilian doctor Raquel de Faria calling it a great conquest and expressing extreme happiness that finally people understood that Venezuela was no longer a democratic country. The diaspora community, numbering in the millions, has long hoped for change in their homeland. The operation represents a significant escalation in Trump's broader regional strategy. Over recent months, the U.S. has destroyed more than 30 boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean in what it described as a counter-narcotics campaign. The administration has also imposed a blockade on sanctioned oil tankers and conducted CIA drone strikes on Venezuelan facilities. This progression from maritime interdiction to direct military action on Venezuelan soil represents an unprecedented step in U.S.-Latin American relations. Congressional reaction in the United States has been largely supportive among Republicans, but raises constitutional questions. The White House briefed congressional leadership only after the operation, according to sources. Republican Senator Mike Lee expressed support for bringing Maduro to justice, but questioned what might constitutionally justify the Venezuela operation in the absence of a declaration of war or authorization for the use of military force. The economic implications are significant for both countries. Venezuela possesses the world's largest proven oil reserves, and Trump's indication that the U.S. will become very strongly involved in the oil industry suggests major changes in how these resources will be developed and controlled. Deportation flights to Venezuela have been paused in the wake of Maduro's capture, indicating that U.S. immigration policy toward Venezuela will also need recalibration. The regional security implications extend far beyond Venezuela's borders. The operation sets a precedent for U.S. military intervention in Latin America that could affect relations with other countries in the region. The fact that this was accomplished without prior consultation with regional allies or international bodies raises questions about future U.S. unilateral actions. Looking ahead, the immediate focus will be on Maduro's legal proceedings in New York, where he faces charges that could result in life imprisonment. The broader question of Venezuela's governance will require careful management to prevent the country from descending into chaos or civil conflict. The international community will be watching to see whether this dramatic action leads to democratic transition or further instability in an already troubled region. This operation will likely be remembered as a watershed moment in U.S.-Latin American relations, regardless of its ultimate outcome. Whether it proves to be the catalyst for Venezuela's democratic renewal or the beginning of a broader regional crisis remains to be seen. What is certain is that the capture of Nicolás Maduro has fundamentally altered the political landscape of South America and created new realities that all regional actors will need to navigate in the months ahead.